Okay, what if I told you that the one thing you pride yourself on, your ability to be rational, is actually the very thing that's holding you back? It's a pretty wild idea, but that's exactly what we're going to get into today.
I know, that question sounds completely backwards. I mean, we're all taught that being logical and reasonable is the absolute key to success. But what if that's only half the story? What if leaning too hard on pure reason is quietly draining the life out of your life?
You know the promise of rationality, right? It's so seductive. Think clearly, act logically, avoid risk. Sounds great, but for a lot of us, the reality feels different. It feels like being stuck in neutral, a little empty, like your life makes perfect sense on a spreadsheet, but you're missing the point.
And that right there, that's the heart of the whole problem. We've confused a tool for a purpose. Logic is a fantastic tool. It's like a supercomputer for calculating risk. But it's completely silent when you ask it, what makes this life worth living? And that confusion, well, that's where all the trouble starts.
So let's talk about the real cost of logic. To really understand the dark side of putting reason up on a pedestal, we got to look at a philosopher who saw this whole thing coming more than 100 years ago, Friedrich Nietzsche.
This is exactly what Nietzsche was worried about. He predicted that as we got more and more scientific, we'd be able to explain how everything works, but in the process, we'd lose our answer for why any of it matters. We'd be left with a ton of facts and zero importance. And yeah, there's a name for that destination: nihilism. And it's not just some gloomy philosophy for teenagers, it's the logical conclusion you arrive at if you follow pure rationality to the very end. If you demand a purely objective, logical proof for why your life matters, you're going to come up empty-handed. And that can feel pretty devastating.
But okay, it's not all doom and gloom. This realization isn't a dead end, because if meaning isn't something we can discover out there in the world, like a scientific law, then it has to be something we create. And the tool we use for that isn't logic, it's choice.
All right, so if we have to create meaning, how the heck do we actually do that? Well, this leads us straight to the existentialists, and specifically a guy named Jean-Paul Sartre, who had a really powerful answer to this whole problem.
Condemned to be free. I mean, wow, just think about that phrase. What Sartre meant is that we're thrown into this world without an instruction manual. There's no blueprint, no destiny. We are terrifyingly, radically free. And yeah, that's a huge burden, but it's also where all our power comes from. So here's the trap. If you have this total freedom, but you demand a perfectly rational, risk-free reason for every single move you make, you're just going to get stuck. Life never, ever gives you the 100% certainty that your logical brain wants. So you end up in paralysis.
And you've probably felt this, right? We call it analysis paralysis. Every important path has risks. No decision is perfectly justified. So your rational mind just keeps spinning its wheels, weighing the options, waiting for a guarantee that is never going to come. And while you're waiting, life is just happening without you.
Okay, great. So if logic leads to paralysis, are we just doomed to stay stuck? No. How do we break free? Well, for this, we need another philosophical giant, Sartre Kierkegaard, and his famous idea for how to move forward when you don't have all the answers.
And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? But wait a minute, how can you just choose something without proof? Isn't that totally irresponsible? It feels reckless to make a big decision without knowing for sure that it's the right one.
This is where Kierkegaard's famous concept comes in, the leap of faith. Now, this is so important. This is not about blind faith or ignoring reality. It's about doing all your homework, using reason to get you as far as it can possibly take you, and then having the courage to take the final step yourself. It's stepping into the unknown, because standing still just isn't an option anymore.
So what does this actually look like? Well, first, you got to accept that there's no single right path out there waiting for you. Second, you just make a choice. You commit. Third, you act on it, knowing there are no guarantees. And fourth, and this is the big one, you realize that your choices and your actions are what define you, not all the brilliant thinking you did beforehand.
This really brings us to a whole new way of looking at our lives. It all boils down to a fundamental question. Are you trying to calculate your life, or are you actually living it? Just look at the difference. The rational choice is almost always the safe one. Stay in the job you know, avoid that tough conversation. But the meaningful choice, that's about taking a leap. It's about chasing a passion, or standing up for what you believe in, or just starting to live your life now, imperfectly, instead of waiting for some perfect plan.
It embraces the very risk that rationality tries to stamp out.
And I want to be really, really clear here. Rationality isn't the enemy. It is an incredible tool. The problem only starts when we let the tool become the master. Logic should be helping you play the game of life, not trying to solve it like it's a math equation.
Honestly, this might be the most powerful takeaway of all. If you look at the people who have lived lives of real purpose, they weren't the ones who had it all figured out from the start. They were the ones who were willing to take a chance, to commit to something even when they were scared. From the outside, it might look messy, even irrational, but from the inside, it feels real, because it's a life that's being lived, not just calculated.
So, this is where we land. Your rational mind is a fantastic bodyguard. It will always tell you how to stay safe, how to be efficient, how to avoid risk. But it can never, ever answer the most important question: what's worth it to you? That part, well, that has to be chosen. It has to be lived. So the final question isn't for me to answer, it's for you. What will you choose?